All your life they've ranked you by a fiction, a score, a certificate, a memorized formula. None of it measures what truly matters. They convinced you brilliance was reciting answers or passing exams. They were wrong, and it served their agenda perfectly. Authentic mastery has zero connection to traditional schooling or society's polite definitions of clever. Real genius is control. It's endurance. It's bending the world to your vision before the world bends you to its chaos. History's greatest tacticians understood this truth. While crowds scrambled to appear educated, the elite quietly amassed unstoppable influence. A concealed ladder exists, a spectrum of mental evolution that determines who dominates and who obeys, who thrives and who vanishes. Roughly 90% remain trapped on the bottom tier. They believe they're choosing freely, but they're executing routines programmed by invisible architects. Then there are the climbers, 7 distinct tiers of awareness, 7 stages of conscious transformation. Right now, we're peeling back every comfortable illusion. We're holding up an unforgiving reflection of your cognition. This will sting. It might shatter something inside you because you'll discover precisely where you exist on this pyramid. And once the hierarchy becomes visible, you can't unsee the scaffolding. Humans around you will look different. You'll notice the programming beneath their words. You'll detect the emptiness behind their smiles. One question remains. Do you possess the courage to confront your real rank? Observe your surroundings carefully. Truly study them. Navigate a packed downtown avenue at peak hours. Notice the commuters crammed into trains. Stand behind strangers at checkout counters. What appears before you? You witness the unconscious masses. This is Tier 1, and it is devastatingly overcrowded. The unconscious operator isn't necessarily unintelligent. They may boast impressive credentials, physicians, attorneys, engineers. They might quote literature or program software. Yet fundamentally, they remain asleep at the wheel. Cognition at this tier is entirely reflexive. The unconscious person doesn't initiate action. Action happens to them. Their existence unfolds as automated biological and cultural responses. The alarm blares. They rise. The authority figure issues orders. They comply. The broadcast delivers narratives. They accept. The commercial seduces. They purchase. They believe their thoughts are original, but they're echoing someone else's script. Challenge their convictions, press for reasoning, and they collapse. They'll regurgitate social media headlines. They'll recite inherited sentiments from childhood conditioning. They're containers for external programming. History's strategists describe this segment as those perpetually vulnerable to deception, endlessly willing to be manipulated because immediate needs override reflection. The unconscious mind operates with zero personal sovereignty. They inhabit an external locus of authority. Every misfortune gets blamed elsewhere. The system, politicians, their partner, bad fortune. They're casualties of circumstance, floating downstream with no attempt to steer. Psychologically, autonomy terrifies them. Liberty isn't a reward, it's an unbearable weight. Grant them absolute freedom and panic erupts. They hunger for masters. They crave rigid frameworks. They demand instructions on what's virtuous, what's forbidden, and what comes next. This explains their obsession with majority opinion. Safety requires consensus validation. They scan comment sections before forming preferences. They check trend reports before making purchases. Their deepest terror isn't error. It's isolation. You know these individuals intimately. They're colleagues. They're relatives. They're extras in history's drama. They occupy space. They generate noise, but they leave no legacy. They're fuel cells. They power machines designed by higher consciousness. They consume, they labor, then they're replaced. If you're trapped at Tier 1, this content probably never reached you. Algorithms shield the unconscious from uncomfortable darkness. But if you're stirring awake, recognize this. That persistent sensation that your existence belongs to someone else isn't mental illness. It's reality piercing through sedation. When unconscious minds awaken, wisdom doesn't arrive first. Volume does. They surge into Tier 2. The Imitator. The Imitator grasps that existence is competitive theater. They recognize intellect as currency, purchasing status, respect, validation. But lacking independent thought, they plagiarize the minds of others. The Imitator embodies mediocre cleverness. They're dinner guests dropping vocabulary they barely comprehend. They're online activists, adopting fashionable causes for signal value, not genuine conviction. They consume summaries, never source material. They reference philosophy without contemplating existence. At Tier 2, intelligence becomes costume. It's performance art. The Imitator fetishizes intellectual aesthetics. They hoard credentials, certifications, titles like trophies. They require you to acknowledge their brilliance. They crave applause. This tier poses maximum danger to ego because superiority feels intoxicating. You despise the unconscious masses. You think, look at those automatons. I'm enlightened. But you're not enlightened. You're dreaming a more flattering fantasy. The Imitator inhabits the classic overconfidence trap. They know sufficient information to believe they're experts, insufficient wisdom to recognize their ignorance. Classic strategists warned against this archetype. They spoke of those mistaking virtue's appearance for virtue itself. The Imitator believes resembling a leader makes them one. Sounding philosophical makes them a philosopher, but test them deeply. Challenge an imitator. Present an unprecedented problem. Demand they construct original systems. Panic follows because creation is impossible. They only duplicate. Their reverberations, reflections. The tragedy. They're addicted to external approval. Their entire self-worth dangles from validation by intellectual circles they aspire to join. Exposure as frauds terrorizes them. This breeds rigidity. It triggers aggression when questioned. If you constantly need to prove correctness, if you memorize talking points to win arguments rather than pursue truth, you're stuck at Tier 2. You're a parrot, colorful, loud, speech-capable, thought-incapable. True darkness begins here. When performance ends and you start perceiving reality without filters, you ascend to Tier 3, the strategist. This is the cunning predator. The strategist abandons validation needs. Public perception of their intelligence becomes irrelevant. Victory matters. This marks the first tier of genuine agency. The strategist observes existence, regulations, ethics, social agreements, and realizes they're not universal laws. They're arbitrary guidelines, and guidelines bend. Ancient wisdom teaches the powerful beast cannot avoid snares, and the clever creature cannot fight packs. One must possess cleverness to spot snares, and strength to scatter threats. The strategist embodies cleverness. They detect traps. They decode incentive architecture. They study superiors, partners, institutions, asking, what motivates them? What frightens them? How do I leverage this? Tier 3 intelligence is transactional, cold, and ruthlessly strategic. The strategist achieves results. They ascend hierarchies not through maximum effort, but through intelligent positioning. They know who deserves flattery and who merits silence. They understand when speech serves and when silence protects. But the strategist often experiences profound loneliness, viewing every interaction as transaction murders human connection. People become chess pieces. This generates power but breeds paranoia. The strategist constantly monitors threats because they assume everyone operates identically. They project their cunning onto reality. Trust vanishes. This is Tier 3's prison. You become captive to your own tactics. You're perpetually gaming instead of living. You're efficient, yes, but hollow. Countless successful executives, officials, entrepreneurs plateau here. They accumulate wealth. They achieve status, but peace eludes them. They're trapped scanning for dangers and advantages. They're the room's smartest occupant, yet still reacting to rooms others constructed. They're winning games but remain enslaved to them. Ascending higher demands transcending self-interest. You must become elemental force. The clever hide in shadows. Tier 4 is the commander. Raw strength. The commander surpasses mere calculation. They inject a new variable, willpower. The strategist navigates safely. The commander reshapes reality through sheer personality and competence. This is leadership's echelon. The commander doesn't just observe pieces. They move them with conviction. Conflict doesn't intimidate them. They thrive within it. Ancient wisdom states, better to inspire fear than love if both prove impossible. The commander internalizes this. They accept difficult decisions that unconscious minds, imitators and strategists fear-making. They shoulder responsibility's burden. At this tier, intelligence becomes creative force. You're not exploiting existing opportunities. You're manufacturing new ones through execution capacity. People follow commanders not through manipulation like strategists, but because they represent order amid chaos. They're beacons. They possess vision and discipline to march toward it, dragging everyone along if necessary. But strength has fatal vulnerability, visibility. The commander operates loudly. They occupy front positions. They claim credit but absorb blame. They're targets because power depends on force and presence. Their authority ties to physical vitality. Illness crumbles empires. Weakness invites predators. The commander exhausts themselves. They bear world weight on shoulders. They believe they're sovereign, but they're actually the highest paid servants. They're enslaved to ambition. They think power means doing, controlling, being seen. They haven't learned power's ultimate lesson. The universe's most dangerous elements are invisible. Now we enter profound depths. Tier schools never teach, levels more or less condemn. Tier 5 is the manipulator. If cleverness is cunning and strength is force, manipulation is invisibility. The manipulator realizes direct control. Tier 4 is wasteful. It generates resistance. Push someone, they resist. Command someone, they resent you. But make them desire what you want. You own them. This is indirect power. This is influence. The manipulator avoids podiums. They whisper behind them. They comprehend psychology's deepest layers. They know humans run on two fuels, craving and terror. They don't battle reality. They seduce it. The manipulator engineers narratives. They construct situations where outcomes feel inevitable, yet everyone believes they chose freely. They master plausible denial. Projects fail. Their names absent. Projects succeed. They harvest rewards. They operate through proxies. They utilize unconscious minds, imitators, strategists, even commanders as extensions. Ancient texts teach, everyone perceives your mask. Few experience your essence. The manipulator lives this code. They're shapeshifters. They become whoever necessary to achieve objectives, No fixed identity exists. They're liquid. To unconscious minds, they're friends. To commanders, loyal counselors. To strategists, business allies. None realize they're being steered. But Tier 5 demands terrible payment, dissociation. Wearing masks constantly erases your face. Treating every interaction as psychological warfare destroys connection capacity. The manipulator wields power, yes, but they're phantoms. They move through existence without belonging to it. They're colder than strategists. They observe humanity with scientist detachment studying specimens. They predict, they control, but they cannot join. This is manipulation's lonely summit. Most practitioners plateau here. They believe invisibility is ultimate power. They're mistaken. The manipulator still plays games, still manipulates pieces, still reacts to boards. The true master doesn't play games. The true master builds casinos. Enter Tier 6, the architect, the designer. The architect doesn't manipulate individuals. They design environments. They understand behavior, his environmental function. Want people walking specific directions? Don't ask. Don't trick. Build hallways. The architect constructs hallways. They create systems, ideologies, corporations, algorithms, religions, nations. They establish game rules that unconscious minds, imitators, strategists, commanders, and manipulators all fight within. While strategists steal grapes and commanders fight for bunches and manipulators convince others to surrender grapes, the architect owns vineyards. This is systemic cognition. It's thinking in cascading consequences, second, third, fourth order effects. The architect thinks in generations and centuries, not quarterly profits. They're detached from individual battle outcomes because they've rigged wars. Consider social platform creators. They're architects. They don't care about your arguments. They don't care which faction wins. They build arenas. They profit from noise. They profit from conflict. The architect isn't evil, not virtuous, inevitable. They observe chaos and detect patterns. They see code beneath reality and rewrite it. Reaching Tier 6 requires abandoning personal glory desires, abandoning control over individuals, falling in love with structure, becoming civilization's student, understanding economics, psychology, history, physics, weaving them into unified tapestries. The architect is rare. Maybe 1 in 10 million reaches this elevation. Their names surviving history. Not kings who fought wars, but minds designing systems making wars necessary. But even architects aren't final tier, because architects remain attached to creations. They still care if systems function. Ego still exists, projected into work. Systems collapsing causes suffering. One tier remains, almost inhuman. The ultimate tier isn't about adding more. It's subtraction. It's the void. At Tier 7, you cease being player, cease being designer. You become silence itself. This is total internal sovereignty. The void masters the ultimate trait, complete emotional and psychological detachment from external reality. They own nothing yet possess everything. They fear nothing because attachment vanishes. You cannot threaten someone indifferent to mortality, cannot bribe someone, desiring nothing you offer, cannot manipulate someone with zero ego, requiring validation. The void observes architect systems, manipulator schemes, commander wars, strategist tricks, and smiles. They see it as theater, cosmic comedy. This isn't despair. This is transcendence. The void operates with perfect clarity because desire doesn't cloud vision. They do exactly what's necessary. Nothing more, nothing less. They're like water. Grasp them. They slip through fingers. Cut them. They reform. Burn them. They become vapor only to rain down later. Ancient wisdom hinted at this. It spoke of fortune, fate, universe chaos. It said, half our lives fortune governs, half our will governs. The void aligns will with fortune. They don't resist current. They become current. In Eastern traditions, this is the path. In Stoic philosophy, this is the sage. In depth psychology, this is the ultimate predator. Because encountering a Tier 7 being renders you helpless. You cannot read them, cannot predict them. They reflect whatever you project. They're mirrors. Look into them, you only see yourself. They descend to Tier 4 to command armies, then ascend back. They play strategist at negotiations, then return. They use other tiers as tools, but don't inhabit them. They live in their mind's fortress, a fortress without doors. This is ultimate freedom, freedom from needing to be somebody. And paradoxically, this is where greatest power resides, because those needing nothing command everything. Now the mirror faces you. Where do you rank? Be ruthlessly honest. Self-deception costs more than any external lie. Are you unconscious, drifting, reacting, awaiting permission to exist? Are you imitator, seeking applause, memorizing phrases, pretending comprehension? Are you strategist, trapped in competition, paranoid, transactional, isolated? Are you commander, exhausted, bearing world weight, target for everyone? Are you manipulator, hiding in shadows, losing your soul to masks? Are you architect, building systems, obsessed with legacy? Or are you approaching the void? Most of you oscillate between Tier 2 and Tier 3. You're smart enough to recognize the game exists, but still seeking validation, Tier 2. Or trapped in transactions, Tier 3. That's acceptable. Awareness initiates ascent. But understand this, the system is designed to keep you down. Education systems create unconscious operators. Universities manufacture imitators. Corporate structures trap strategists. They don't want architects. They're terrified of the void. If you want to climb, you must oppose every grain of your biological and social programming. You must kill the part craving approval. You must kill the part craving safety. You must accept that cognition isn't about being pleasant, not about being correct. It's about being effective. It's about seeing code. So how do you ascend? You don't climb by accumulating information. You climb by eliminating illusions. To move from unconscious to imitator, wake up to knowledge's value. To move from imitator to strategist, stop caring what people think and start caring what works. To move from strategist to commander, develop courage and accept responsibility. To move from commander to manipulator, learn subtlety and psychology. To move from manipulator to architect, learn systems thinking and patience. To move from architect to void, release everything. It's a long journey. It's a dark journey. Most turn back. They prefer the herd's comfort. It's warm in the flock center. It's cold on mountains, but the view transforms everything. When you stand at the summit observing the scurrying masses, you realize all the stress, all the drama, all the politics, all the noise. It was just games. Games you no longer must play. You can just observe. And in that observation, you find the only thing mattering, self-mastery. But there's a specific technique, a psychological key unlocking the transition from Tier 3 to Tier 4. It's the hardest barrier to shatter. It involves a concept ancient strategists called virtue. Not virtue in religious sense, but ruthless, flexible prowess. Most of you will hit ceiling at Tier 3. You'll be intelligent, successful strategists, but perpetually afraid of predators. You'll never become commanders. You'll never construct empires. Why? Because you still believe in rules. You think sufficient cleverness makes rules protect you. They won't. The secret to breaking through, the secret to entering architect and sovereign realms requires fundamental fracture in your moral programming. You must be willing to do the one thing society declares unforgivable. I cannot explain it fully here. The platform won't permit it. The unconscious masses would report it. It's too sharp for public space. If this opened your eyes, understand this is only what I can share publicly. There are dimensions of depth psychology I cannot discuss openly, without censorship or restriction. The platform suppresses the most powerful information. Those exist behind membership access. If you're still here, you're different from others. Subscribe if you haven't. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the cognitive hierarchy, show your support. Hit that like button for mind verity. But if you want what's hidden, access membership and step into architect tier, you'll unlock exclusive, unrestricted content, diving into the deepest parts of human psychology. Most won't. That's the point.